bilingual session, so please get your translation headsets if you need them.
Yeah.
Yes! Yes! Still What right after that extraordinarily provocative previous session, wasn't that brilliant? We continue our wide-ranging exploration of burning issues, and we've got now Sarah Penryn-Jones, Sarah Williams, and the session chaired by Elena Morgan. Elena Morgan is, of course, our health minister, and I should say she's been a huge supporter and guiding light of this festival. Without Elena, I don't think it would be here today. So this is a really good opportunity to listen to some very knowledgeable women talking about some very pertinent issues. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr. Cyn I ni ddechrau, before we start, I just want to explain that this is going to be a bilingual session, okay? So we're going to try it bilingually. So os angen offer cyfieithu arnoch chi, if you haven't got earphones who don't speak Welsh, then they're available in the back. Okay, diolch yn fawr. Wel, gyda i gyd diolch yn fawr am ddod i'r sesiwn yma. Gai gyflwyno fy hun, fi yw Elena Morgan, fi sy'n weinidog iechyd yn Llywodraeth Cymru. Ac un o'r pethau dwi wedi bod yn hyrwyddo ac yn benderfynol o wthio yw i newid ein polisi tuag at iechyd a menywod. Ac un o'r pethau dwi yn bendant wedi ymddiddori ynddi yw sôn am y menopause a be allwn ni wneud ynglyn â hynny. Felly mae dwy arbenigydd gyda ni ar y llwyfan heddiw. Dwi eisiau just cyflwyno nhw. So mae dwy Sarah a Sarah. Okay? So ni'n mynd i gwahaniaethu rhwngddyn nhw. So dyma Sarah, so Sarah Penryn-Jones. Sarah yn ddarllenydd mewn cyfryngau yng Nghaerfaddol. A mae hi wedi ymddiddori lot yn y pwnc yma, allwn ni ofyn tymor bach iddi am hynny. A Sarah Williams sydd yn byw yn lleol ac hefyd yn arbenigydd yn y maes. Mae hi'n hyfforddwr menopause cynwysedig. Felly newn ni glywed tymor bach fwy am hynny. Felly, dwi eisiau dechrau gyda Sarah i ofyn sut ddechrau chi ymddiddori yn y maes yma a beth yw'ch arbenigaeth chi? Beth yn union yw'ch swydd chi?
So, thank you, Lynn, as well. So I arrived at this work about 5 years ago as a result of my own kind of journey into menopause. I had an undiagnosed condition at that time called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and as a result of that I had a chemical menopause and then a surgical menopause. I was an inclusion and diversity consultant and trainer, and I had no friends to talk to, but I had no friends my age who would go through menopause, and my mum had just died as well, and I had no idea, what her experience was. So I just thought, I'm talking all the time about inclusion and things like that. So I'd seen something, a programme on BBC, Kirsty Walk, about Menopause Cafe, and I thought, I'm going to give it a go. So I did that. Within like a week, I had Audit Wales needed a training session, and so I could find no trainers at that time who were available. There were about 4 or 5 in the UK, so I thought I'll give it a go. And I loved it. I just loved seeing all the women in the room and people lighting up and recognising what I was talking about. And it just went from there until after about 2 years of doing that and the inclusion stuff, I pretty much burnt out because there was hardly anyone talking about it. I mean, this is just like 2-3 years ago. So now I do workplace training. I'm really passionate about evidence-based information, unbiased information, not my opinion, sharing research and evidence. Not leading anyone to a conclusion, a sales conclusion. I believe that's really important. And so I do a community group. I've been doing in Ceredigion for the last 2 months, trialling a kind of primary care support group, which has been really well received. And I also started the Menopause Inclusion Collective, recognising that what we were hearing about really was a mainstream experience, a one kind of experience about menopause. and that kind of put fire in my belly to make sure that people in the mainstream and people experiencing menopause in the margins were being heard and had a voice and had some advocacy going on. So I do a lot really.
Diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr. A na i ofni I Sarah Penrhyn Jones, ydych chi wedi bod yn gwneud ffilmiau, sgwennu erthyglau am menywod a iechyd menywod. Ydych chi jyst ymwneud tyma bach ar hynny?
Mae fy nghefndir I mewn yn y cyfryngau, a ddiddordeb mawr sgennau ydy sut mae materion yn cael eu cynrychioli yn y wasg. Felly, yn draddodiadol, o'n i'n edrych mwy ar storis amgylcheddol, enghraifft newid hinsawdd. Achos wrth gwrs, dydy newid hinsawdd ddim yn digwydd yn yr un ffordd I bawb, a mae'n fater o gyfiawnder o ran sut mae pobl yn cael ei effeithio. A dwi'n meddwl bod hynna hefyd yn wir am y menopause. Mae'n berthnasol iawn I feddwl am sut mae'r cyfryngau yn cynrychioli menopause a hefyd heneiddio. A fi'n hoffi meddwl falle bod ni angen gwleidyddiaeth ffeministiaeth I wneud efo heneiddio a merched. A mae gan ei ddiddordeb yn y pwnc o perspektif eitha holistig. Felly ddim just y menopause, ddim just HRT, ond be mae'n olygu I ni fel merched I fynd yn hun yn y cymdeithas ni, yn economaidd, yn seicolegol, a'r holl faterion eraill sy'n codi hefyd mewn cysylltiad â heneiddio.
Diolch yn fawr, Sarah. Mae Sarah wedi bod yn sgrifennu ar gyfer o'r pedwar gwynt ac I chi'n ymwybodol ein bod ni wedi gwneud partneriaeth yn yr wyl yma gyda o'r pedwar gwynt I sicrhau ein bod ni yn cael cysylltiad ac yn cael gwyl dwyieithog am y tro cyntaf. Felly, diolch yn fawr i'r pedwar gwynt. Cyn mynd ymhellach, dwi jyst eisiau gwneud yn siŵr bod ni gyd yn gwybod am be ni'n sôn. Achos, actually, am flynyddoedd, doedd neb yn siarad am hyn yn gyhoeddus o gwbl. Felly, gawn ni just, beth yw symptomau y menopause? Just fel bod ni gyd yn ymwybodol o hyn. A pam ych chi'n meddwl fod y tabw yna wedi parhau am gymaint o amser? Ac ydyn ni mewn lle nawr, lle mae pethau wedi symud ymlaen?
Okay, so in terms of symptoms, signs and symptoms, I mean, this is where already Sarah and I could go on for hours about polarised debates about menopause. So there's a kind of medical perspective and then a perspective, menopause is not a disease. So there are signs, and we can call them symptoms. So for some people, they may become troublesome enough, the changes that they're experiencing, to reach out for treatment and support. But I've got something interesting here, I think, about from an NHS trust, not in Wales. It's got about 35 symptoms of menopause. The common ones that you'll hear about are joint pain, hot flushes and night sweats, headaches, mood swings, palpitations maybe, itchy skin, dryness basically from head to toe. And I probably will say dry vagina at least once this morning. So dryness everywhere. We've got estrogen receptors all over the body. So when hormones, sex hormones are fluctuating, we're going to have changes that we experience. But I love some of these symptoms on here. These aren't so great. Feelings of unworthiness, irritability, which I'm sure lots of us know about, anger, and this one I love, bitterness. And I was thinking, this is an NHS guy. I was thinking, is that bitterness in the taste or just being generally unhappy? Aggression is another one, and we've got lots of genitourinary symptoms, bladder incontinence, or urge incontinence, stress incontinence, we all know that, or lots of us will know that as well. So, but then there's other things that are really quite distressing for people, like personality disintegration. And we all hear about people talking about loss of confidence, and losing themselves, and maybe, I feel like, hopefully if we can put a positive spin on it, you lose yourself and you find yourself again. So, these are symptoms that can emerge around the time leading up to your menopause moment, which is one moment in time after 12 consecutive months without a period. You have a gin and tonic or a prosecco, whatever you fancy, and then you move into post-menopausal life. So, but we talk about the whole transition as menopause.
Great. O'n i wedi bod yn dechrau sôn am hyn yn fwy cyhoeddus yn diweddar. Yn arbennig ar y cyfryngau pobl fel Davina McCall. Ydy hwnna wedi bod yn help neu yn rwystr? Ac ble ni sefyll o ran y trafodaeth cyhoeddus ar y pwnc yma?
O diolch Elena, bod hwnna'n gwestiwn mor ddiddorol yn dydi. Di'r pwnc erioed wedi cael mwy o sylw na sydd beth sy'n digwydd rwan, a da ni'n sôn am y gofod addysgiadol, yn y gweithle, o fewn y cyfryngau. Ac os da chi'n jyst meddwl am eiliad, pwy di'r gwynebau da chi'n gweld pan da chi'n meddwl am y disgwrs menopos? Da ni wedi clywed am Davina McCall, unrhyw un arall. Sut mae'n chi ddeud yn uchel, ond pwy di'r pobl da chi'n sydd ddim yn cysylltu gyda'r trafodaeth gyfredol am menopos mewn cymdeithas? A'r cwestiwn nesaf ydy, beth gan y gwynebau yn gyffredin efo'i gilydd? Os da chi eisiau sôn fel dri wedi bod yn trafod, Mariella Frostrup, Davina McCall, pwy di'r pobl yma? Maen nhw fel arfer yn ferched gwyn, mae gen nhw blatfform yn barod, dyn nhw ddim yn dioddef o anabledd, a maen nhw wedi taflu miloedd o bunnoedd at eu proses menopos, mynd i gael gwasanaethau preifat, a falle annog y cyhoedd i deimlo diffyg hyder yn ei GPs a'r system iechyd sydd gennym ni. Ydy yna'n help? Dwi ddim yn gwybod. Ydy yn beth da bod lot o ferched, falle dosbarth gweithiol, yn teimlo bod nhw ddim yn mynd i gael y gefnogaeth maen nhw angen, heb wario yr un math o arian, neu mynd at yr un math o bobl sydd gyda'r profil uchel. Felly mae'n wir i ddeud, mae'n lai o dybw, da ni'n trafod y menopos, da ni'n trafod mislif, ond pwy sydd efo llais o fewn y disgwrs yma? Dyna'r cwestiwn pwysig yn da. A dyna rhywbeth mae'n rhaid i ddeud, i roi credit i Sarah. Cael trafodaethau gyda Sarah cyn heddiw, wir wedi agor fy llygaid hyn hefyd, ac achos y Sarah, dwi wedi mynd â wneud mwy o ymchwil fewn i hyn. Ac erbyn hyn, dwi'n meddwl, fedrwch chi ddim trafod y menopos heb hefyd ystyried ar yr un pryd a roedd yr un pwysiant i'r syniad yma o pwy sy'n cael ei cynnwys o fewn y sgwrs a pwy sy'n cael ei gadael allan. A dyna beth sy'n angen bod yn ganolog i'r trafodaeth.
A Sarah, o jyst o ran pryd a gyda phwy ych chi'n siarad trafod y menopos, yn amlwg mae gyda chi ffordd o wneud hynny gyda rhai, ond dwi'n na ddim ar gael i bob un. Felly, beth yw'r cylchoedd lle mae pobl yn gallu trafod hyn? Achos mae rhai o'r pobl, dyn nhw ddim yn cymysgu lot gyda menywod o'r un oedran, a dyn nhw yn quite yn siŵr beth sy'n digwydd. Felly, beth yw'r proses, ble ydyn nhw fynd am help?
So I guess I'm moving in various circles. Anything from like a grassroots community group up to being a bit of a pain in the APPG in the chat box. So I'm hearing lots of different elements of discourse, and from the community groups, people are accessing this. People are finding me and messaging me. They may come like via a menopause cafe or a talk menopause group. People in workplace settings. But something I think is really important on the back of that is that here is a perspective from these groups. This is last Monday in Rhondda and Taff. Tell me one word that you feel about menopause. Weight gain, muscle cramps, dry skin, period pains, mood swings, depression, night sweats, sad, change, imbalance, old, scared, tired, scary, hormones, hot, brain fog, old, foggy, exhausted, challenging. So there's not one positive word in there. And after that session, what horrified me most is that I've been doing this for 5 years, and I always end on a bit of a flourish, a nice note about transformation. And I got an email after that saying, you didn't end on the positive, there were no positives. So even I have started this negative perspective about menopause has started to permeate my own work. And this person, and I think this is important to say, said, here are some positives: no more periods, no pregnancy, sex whenever you like, wear white jeans, save a fortune on sanitary products, help the environment by not using period products, go on holiday whenever you like, go to a festival and not worry about the facilities, swim when you want, go swimming, no more wings, I'm not sure what that meant, but wear whatever size knickers you like, and you're no longer defined by society as a sex object. Well, she's speaking for herself there, I think. No more sexual harassment, and never being told again it's your hormones driving you crazy, so not being gaslit maybe. And you have a third of your left life to be who you want to be, and NLGAF, no longer give a fluff. So I think we have to focus on the positive. And the people are coming. Sarah is so right. There's a fear-mongering element, and I'm speaking to younger people before perimenopause, wanting support to find out more because they are fearful of menopause now. So it's really important that we have an opportunity through the work we're doing in Wales to lead the way again, as we do in so many other areas, to send a positive message out about menopause, that it can be transformational with the right support and the right information. And let's not go down that celebrity route. There you are.
Sorry. Also,
Your thing's banging against your microphone.
Ie, diolch fan hynny, hilarious. Sorry, beth i ddweud. O ie, mae'r y ffordd mae cyfryngau'n gweithio, y ffordd mae stori yn dod yn stori yn lle gyda cyfryngau, ydy fel arfer ydych chi angen rhyw fath o elyn, goodies and baddies, a mae gorau bod eitha syml yn dydi a one-dimensional o ran stori. Felly mae'r stori HRT, mae'n un syml yn dydi, rhaid i ni ferched ymladd am ein hawl i gael HRT yn erbyn y meddygon ofnadwy mas sydd yn gwrando ar ein anghenion. Ond mae'n gwirionedd, pan ni'n meddwl am heneiddio mewn ffordd llawer iawn mwy holistig, fyswn ni'n feddwl, wel ie, bod yn chwerw. Mae gen ferched eitha lot o resymau dros fod yn chwerw yn does. Os da chi'n edrych ar fel nath ni brofi'r pandemig, rhai o'n ni adref a plant ni'n bynnag, oedd cymaint mwy o'r pwysau yn disgyd ar ein sgwydda ni o ran gofal plant, be maen nhw'n ei alw'n emotional load, meddwl am anghenion y pobl yn cylch ni. Os dwi'n cymharu fy mhensiwn i a pensiwn fy ngŵr, mae'n fod tair gwaith maint ym mhensiwn i. Mae yn hun, ond mae yna fwy yn mynd ymlaen ar just y gwahaniaeth oedran. Dwi'n meddwl, wel dwi'n chwerw am hynna hefyd. Dwi'n ddim yn fater hormonaidd. Felly falle da ni angen cymeryd y pethau mae gyd o'r gilydd. Falle da ni'n cyrraedd rhyw oedran, fel fi rwan, 46. Dwi'n y ffram yna rwan, peri-menopause. Dwi'n meddwl ydw am y corff, am y hormonau, ond dwi hefyd yn poeni am y pensiwn. Byddai'n glawd pan dwi'n hun. Dwi'n poeni am falle bod y pwysau yn y gweithle yn anghyfarsol ar ferched. Hyd yn oed o fewn y cyd-destun gwaith, dwi'n gweithio fewn y byd academaidd. Dwi'n teimlo fel, dwi wastad wedi cael y rôl yma o gwaith pastoral. So fi sydd fy nghyfrifoldeb fi mewn cynswydd, ddim yng Nghaerfaddon, oedd bod yr un oedd y myfyrwyr yn dod i siarad efo fi gael te ac yn deimlad achos bod yn poeni am ryw broblem. Ond wedyn oedd rhywun arall yn dod i gweithio ar fy oli ac yn cael swydd arweinydd cwrs neu rhywbeth. Ac o'n i'n teimlo hyd yn oed o fewn y gwaith dwi'n cael y rôl gofal hefyd. A mae hwnna'n ei fi'n chwerw. Felly dwi'n meddwl, os ni'n meddwl am peth mae gyda'r gilydd, da ni angen newid polisi mwy o ddynion yn ei gofal plant ar enghraifft, felly bod merched ddim yn gorfod cymeryd gymaint amser i ffwrdd o'r gwaith. Neu bod ni'n cael dyrchafiad ar sail rhywbeth gwahanol i just bod yn eistedd ar ein desg ni o 9 tan 5 o dydd 5 diwrnod yr wythnos. Jyst yn meddwl fel mae system yma gyd yn gweithio fe'i gilydd. A dyna fyddi'n gobeithio bod eluned yn gallu dod â ni mewn ffordd mewn i'r byd polisi. Be fedrwn ni wneud yn gyffredinol i wneud pethau'n well i ferched fel maen nhw'n heneiddio, ddim jyst achos lefel estrogen, ond achos ein pensiynau, gofal plant a holl bethau eraill sy'n bwysig hefyd.
So mae lot i wneud yn y maes menywod, mae lot i wneud yn y maes iechyd, beth ych chi'n sôn am hynna, i wneud yn siŵr ein bod ni'n ystyried hwn ar draws y llywodraeth, ac i ystyried hwn ac yn deall bod hwn yn cael effaith. Bod rhaid ni feddwl o ran cyflogau a beth sy'n digwydd yn y gweithle. Mae'n ddiddorol iawn, mae'r undebau wedi cymryd rôl blaenllaw, mae'n rhoi'r achos ynglyn â menopause ar yr agenda, achos maen nhw'n deall bod hwn yn rhywbeth sydd yn cael effaith yn y gweithle. Ond cyn i ni fynd lawr y drafodaeth yna, o'n i jyst eisiau gofyn, os ydyn ni gyd yn fodlon wneud hynny, i gweud rhywbeth am yn profiad ni o'r menopause. So, fi'n mynd aml yn licio siarad fel gwleidydd am y mywyd personol i, ond dwi'n meddwl bod rôl gen i, achos mod i yn fenyw o oedran arbennig. So, fi'n mynd i gweud am profiad i o'r menopause. Wel, y peth cyntaf i weid, dwi ddim wedi bod yn adeg tuff i fi, ond beth oedd yn ddiddorol oedd mynd trwy ffeis lle yn amlwg o'ch chi'n cael hot flushes a fi jyst yn redeg mas o'r tŷ, pob un yn bita, yn neis, a wedyn bang o rai fi jyst adael y tŷ, pob un mewn hysterics achos bod rai fi mam mynd off to i gael tymor bach awyr iach. So oedd y plant yn meddwl bod hwnna'n hilarious. Ond beth oedd yn ddiddorol oedd ar y pryd pan es i trwy menopause, o'n i yn gyfrifol am iechyd meddwl. A dwi'n briod i feddyg teulu. A beth oedd yn ddiddorol oedd, am y tro cyntaf, dwi'n mynd dioddef o iselder o gwbl, dwi'n lwcus iawn, ond yn sydyn nes i dechrau teimlo'n isel a teimlo just diffyg hyder. A mae hwnna'n eitha anodd pan ych chi'n wleidydd mewn rôl yng nghanol pandemig. A beth oedd yn ddiddorol oedd bod yng Nghymru sy'n feddyg teulu ddim wedi pigo lan ar hynny. Falle bod oedd Leia mewn bod fi'n stropi trwy'r amser. So, ond yn chwarae'n hyfreth i oedd wedi gweud, hang on, mae eisiau chi wneud rhywbeth am hyn, mae eisiau HRT arnoch chi, nes i gymryd HRT a dda fel switch a ffantastig, popeth wedi bod yn ffantastig ers hynny. Felly, dim ond tua pythefnos o broblem ges i, dwi'n gwybod bod pobl eraill yn dioddau yn ofnadw am amser hir. So, fyddech chi fod yn sôn am eich profiad chi?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, you're a great example there of being extending compassion and empathy to other people. That's really important, just to note that we have these people who, sail through menopause and then, maybe don't give so much compassion to people who are struggling. But it is a biopsychosocial event, and so there are lots of factors that influence somebody's menopause experience. It's not just about hormones, it's about the support you have around you and other life factors. So for me, started slightly earlier, I was a smoker, I was undiagnosed as a neurodivergent person. I'm going through the process around autism assessment at the moment. That was not recognised at the time. I had undiagnosed PMDD, so that's a genetic sensitivity to the fluctuations in hormones, and we will all know somebody with PMDD probably. They're two different people across the month, and the symptoms that are debilitating subside at the onset of the period. So this was worsening, and that is triggered and worsens by hormonal events like perimenopause. So I had quite a difficult time just with that. We have a diagnostic overshadowing of menopause as mental health as well. So when people are presenting with anxiety and depression, it can maybe be that's the focus, and that was my experience. I was being treated for as having mental health issue, not hormonally as well. And then just general, the life stresses. My mum died within 8 weeks of diagnosis from cancer at the age of 64. At the same time, my daughter had gone to university. It was my son due to go as well. And my partner was living abroad, and I was, had a promotion. I was senior manager in work, getting promotion, being put in all these places where we know you forget why you're there and what you're saying, and you start to get a hot flush, and it's all a bit stressful. And then, because I had PMDD, sometimes I had murderous rage across the board table, looking at the board, and so it was just spiralling and becoming out of control. But, so it was very difficult, but it wasn't just menopause. It was all of these other things. But Dr. Richard Penketh, Mr. Richard Penketh in Cardiff, I think saved my life. He recognised I had PMDD, he sorted out my hormonal treatment, he saw me through to surgery and beyond. But it was all those things around me then that helped me to kind of regain my confidence. My partner there, long-loving partner, who, and my son-in-law, we all experienced my menopause. My children did as well.
Diolch. A fi meddwl bod hwnna'n bwysig, a dyna pam dwi'n meddwl bod yn mor bwysig i ni drafod yn gyhoeddus, dim ond menywod o oedran arbennig sy'n mynd trwy hwn, ond mae'n effeithio ar pob un sy'n byw gyda menyw, mae'n effeithio ar brodyr sydd gyda chwiorydd, mae'n effeithio ar plant sydd gyda mam sy'n mynd trwy fe. Felly mae'r trafodaeth gyhoeddus yna'n bwysig fel bod yna ddealltwriaeth ganddyn nhw o beth mae pobl, maen nhw'n byw ac yn gweithio gyda nhw yn mynd trwyddo. Sara, byddech chi'n fod yn gweud am y profiad chi?
Wel, gyntaf, diolch yn fawr i'r ddwy yn chi. Dwi'n dymugu'r ffaith bod chi'n agored yn bethau sy'n gallu teimlo'n ofnadwy o bersonol. Dwi'n meddwl hynna'n ffantastig a mae'n helpu merched eraill. Dwi'n yn siŵr yn y cyfnod perimenopause, felly mae gen rhai o'r symptomau sy'n mynd efo hynna, enghraifft trafferth cysgu. Ond dwi'n meddwl, rili drwy'r redd, a dwi ddim yn fater ideolegol o gwbl, ond dwi'n teimlo fel dwi'n gallu gwneud hyn yn iawn, yn y ffordd o ran naturiol. Dwi ddim yn teimlo bod fi angen unrhyw driniaeth penodol gan y meddyg, a dwi'n teimlo'n eitha hyderus yn mynd fewn i'r menopause yn dibynnu'n llwyr ar beth sy'n digwydd yng nghorffi a jyst trystio'r broses. A dwi'n sylweddoli bod fi'n deud hynna o bersbectif breintiedig iawn, fel rhywun sydd ddim yn dioddef o iselder, a dal ddim yn dioddef o iselder eto, ydych chi wedi gwybod, ond ar hyn o bryd dwi'n teimlo'n iawn. Ond un ffactor i fi ydy, pan dwi'n darllen erthyglau yn y menopause, dwi'n dechrau teimlo'n ofn ofnadwy yma. Jyst y geiriau, osteoporosis, dementia, cancer. Mae'n dechrau wneud chi feddwl, oh gosh, oherwydd yr hethreg biofeddygol, neu yn Saesneg biomedical rhetoric, ti'n dechrau teimlo fel, oh gosh, dwi ddim yn gallu gwneud hyn heb ryw fath o ymyrraeth gan rhywun arall, a ti'n colli hyder yn ti dy hun. A mae'n atgoffa fi dipyn bach o roi genedigaeth hefyd, fel nes i wneud hyn mewn ffordd eitha naturiol, a dwi ddim yn troi hynny mewn i unrhyw fath o rinwedd eto, o'n i'n lwcus bod fi'n gallu wneud o. Ond o'n i'n teimlo fel, dwi wedi bod yn lwcus i ddim yn fy mywyd, mae'n nghorff i'n kind of gweithio fel, I suppose, na fod i. Ond dwi hefyd yn teimlo, mae'n bwysig bod merched yn gallu siarad yn agored. Mae gen nhw yr un hawl i beidio datgelu eu status menopause hefyd yn y gweithle. Yn bersonol, dwi ddim eisiau siarad efo fe rheolwr llynedd a falle dynion iau yn fy nhîm am y ffaith bod fi falle yn mynd mewn rwan i sydd diwedd y peri-menopause a dechrau menopause. I fi mae hyn o'n teimlo fel gwybodaeth breifat, sgynna i ddim byd i ennill drwy rannu'r gwybodaeth yna ar hyn o bryd. Ac o'n i'n darllen yn waith yr undebau, o'n nhw wedi holi llwyth o ferched am sut oedden nhw'n datgelu'r menopause yn y gweithle, ac oedd tua 43% o'r merched wedi datgelu eu statws, ond llai na hanner ohonyn nhw wedi derbyn unrhyw fath o wybodaeth neu gefnogaeth achos o hynna, a nhw gyd rili yn teimlo fel dylen nhw gael mwy o wybodaeth. Felly, wedi bod yn agored yn y gweithle ddim o anghenraid yn arwain at sefyllfa ble gewch chi fwy o gefnogaeth. Felly, fedrwch chi ddweud, well, actually, os ydych chi'n mynd i roi unrhyw beth i fi, gan bod fi'n neud hi'n yn vulnerable fan hyn, pam ddylai fi rhaid gwybodaeth yma i chi, os ydych chi'n mynd i ymateb i'r wybodaeth yna?
Wel, wrth gweud, yn Llywodraeth Cymru, mae lot o waith wedi cael ei wneud ar hwn yn ddiweddar, ac es i ar gyfarfod Teams yn ddiweddar, lle yna 2,000 o bobl yn gwrando ar yr hyfforddiant a beth yn digwydd. Felly, mae pobl yn dechrau gwirioneddol ymddiddori yn y maes yma. Nawr, ser eich chi ar mission, ydych chi, ynglyn â sut i newid y drafodaeth. So beth chi'n gobeithio, beth chi'n gobeithio cyflawni gyda'r mission yma I chi arno?
Well, I was looking back to my first Menopause Cafe in 2018 that I did, and that was on S4R. And I said then, you know, we should have spaces in every community for people to talk about menopause. And I think, you know, I still would love to see that, where people can go and get that evidence-based information, that it's unbiased, not leading them to a conclusion, but it's holistic as well. It looks at all areas of people's lives and supports them around the pillars, the 5 ways of well-being, and things like good sleep and, you know, good healthy lifestyle changes that we all need to make at some point. You know, menopause is the time really when you know, we maybe have to face that a couple of adjustments would be helpful. So I think the mission is to get some talking spaces in as many places as we can, make sure they're inclusive so that everyone feels that they can access them, or that, you know, they're equitable, so where people need specific kinds of information, that's available as well. I'm doing a film with Iris Prize on LGBTQ experiences of menopause at the moment, which is really exciting. That's going to be a great resource for people. So making it inclusive, I think empowering people to recognise they can influence their own health as well. I think maybe the conversation at the moment is so geared to, you know, it's over-medicalising the experience. And I've got something here that just says, women who adopt, is from research from Myra Hunter and Martha Hickey. Women who adopt a medicalised view of reproductive events, including menopause, are more likely to report distress and attribute physical and mental changes to menopause rather than other causes. And I think we have to work hard to best that. So we are empowered to influence our own health outcomes. And yeah, so just on a mission, inclusive spaces, evidence-based, and a holistic view.
Diolch yn fawr. A beth sy'n galwch chi, Sara, rhan o'r beth sy'n ymddiddori fi, mae hwn yn rhan o heneiddio, a mae'r iaith sy'n nhw'n wneud gyda heneiddio, yn aml yn eto'n iaith negyddol. Ydych chi'n fod yn trafod tymor bach am hynny?
Dwi'n meddwl, dwi ddim jyst fel mae'r cyfryngau neu'r byd hysbysebu yn fframio hynny yn yr menopause mewn ffordd penodol. Does gen ni falle ddim gymaint o hynna o reolaeth fel mae'r prosesau yna'n digwydd, ond fel da ni'n dewis trafod hynny o fe'n gilydd, fel faint o weith mae ffrind i deithio fi, ti'n mynd edrych dy oedra, neu mae'r person yn mynd edrych yn dda am ei oedra, math o beth. Da ni'n sorry, da ni'n gael Cymraeg, yn reinforcio y syniad yma fod hynny'n yn beth gwael. A dwi'n teimlo fel, i ddweud y gwir, cwpl o leins ar fy nhalcen, a falle gael bach mwy o awdurdod yn y gweithio, dydyn ni gyd yn drwg, nac di. A dwi'n meddwl, ie, falle trio, rhywbeth o mission sgannau dwi'n meddwl hefyd ydi, trio cyfyd ar ddau beth yn dem. Dwi'n teimlo fel mae'r sgyrsiau mae'n digwydd rhwng ffrindiau fi yn bositif iawn. A mae gennau un ffrind sy'n hun a fi, mae hi'n real Marxist feminist traddodiadol yr Almaen, a mae jyst y ffrind a pawb angen yn ei bywydau. Mae hi wedi dod allan o'r menopause y pen arall, ond mae'n mor bositif mewn profiad. Mae'n dweud bod ei bywyd rhywiol byth i bod yn well, achos oedd ei gŵr yn gorau bod bach mwy attentive oherwydd vaginal dryness. A beth fel, mae'n beth o positif yn digwydd. Ond ie, so mae gennych chi'r sgyrsiau rhwng bersonol yna. Mae gennych ffrind arall sy'n teimlo'n flin fel mae'n mynd i'r broses yma. A da ni'n mynd i gymeryd 2 wythnos oddi ar y gwaith a mynd i gerdded ar Ngogledd Sbaen mis nesaf efo'n gilydd. Felly da ni'n mynd i gefnogi'n gilydd ar lefel personol. Mae hi'n poeni am roi pwysau ymlaen achos nath hi'n mam i roi pwysau ymlaen efo'r menopause. Felly jyst fel mae Sarah'n deud, cymryd bach o gyfrifoldeb dros yn iechyd yn hun. Da ni'n methu beio popeth ar y menopause. Felly da ni'n mynd i gered yn gwybod 350 milltir i edrych ar ôl i'n cyrff. So yn lle rhoi y cyfrifoldeb i gyd i'r diwydiant meddygol, meddwl be fedrwn ni'n neud dros ein hunan hefyd, sy'n dda'n iechyd a lles meddyliol yn ogystal a chorfforol. Ond wrth gwrs, dim pawb sy'n gallu neud hynna, nag e? Dim pawb sy'n gallu mynd off y cerdded yng Ngogledd Sbaen am 2 wythnos. So, dwi'n gwybod, ie, trio mewn beth sy'n gweithio chi fel unigolyn, ar yr un pryd, peidio byth yn nghofio bod yn gwestiwn gwleidyddol hefyd.
So mae'r cyfnod yna, pan byddwch chi fynd mas ar eich traeth chi, mae'n gyfnod da i adlewyrchu, ydyw e, ac falle bod y menopause yn gyfle i adlewyrchu, gymryd stoc i feddwl am ble ydych chi ar eich siwrne bywyd. A falle yn gyfle i fod yn fwy caredig i'n hunain. Ydy hwnna'n rhywbeth falle dylen ni fod yn ystyried?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think menopause is a time of reflection and for some a new direction. And I think, you know, we hear about people making big changes, midlife changes and so on. If you're a man, it'd be called a midlife crisis, wouldn't it? But, you know, it's part of the aging process, but maybe we can look at it as becoming an elder rather than getting older. And, you know, so we can embrace our values still in society, isn't it? And, you know, and sharing our experiences. So, and I've had a total menopause moment there and absolutely forgotten what you said.
Personal transformation.
Personal and kindness.
Oh, kindness and yeah, self-compassion. So I think we need to be kind to ourselves. We can definitely extend kindness to others who are experiencing things differently to us. But self-compassion is really important. There is more research. I'm involved in a study with the Paul Gilbert Compassionate Focus Therapies. They are looking into compassion focused therapy in perimenopause, and I took part in somebody's research project as well, and it was really helpful to just take a pause and actually in the group that I came to an end this week, we did a loving kindness meditation. Has anyone done that, where you kind of extend kindness to yourself and then outwards to others? And we were all flipping crying. It was really moving, because I said people do not, when we are disproportionately carers and working, so we might, the sandwich generation, looking after elderly parents, our adult children, who may also, and maybe younger children, and you may have grandchildren, and trying to maintain a job, whatever level that is, dealing with difficult managers, dealing with world events. Oh my God, we have got absolutely loads to deal with. So just allowing those people to take a moment to, they could struggle to just have 3 minutes to focus on themselves, move them to tears. We really need to practice more self-compassion.
Great. Sarah, just o ran y ffordd mae pobl yn ymateb yn wahanol i'r drafodaeth yma. So mae'n amlwg, mae pobl o rhyw cylchoedd gwahanol yn dechrau ystyried hyn, ond enghraifft, falle bod yna pobl o grwps ethnic gwahanol yn fwy cyndyn i siarad am hyn, falle oedran wahanol. Beth allwn ni wneud yn y maes yma? Os angen i ni fod yn fwy sensitif i'r ffaith falle nag yw pob un eisiau trafod yn y ffordd falle i ni fodlon trafod pnawn yma?
Ie, dwi'n meddwl, mewn ffordd ateg union beth mae Sarah'n yn pwysleisio hefyd, bod ni'n creu gofod i bobl drafod ar eu termau nhw. Dim rhaid i bawb gymeryd rhan yn y gofod yna os nad yw'n ddefnyddiol iddyn nhw. Mae'n neud fi feddwl dipyn bach am y syniad yma, o'n i'n edrych ar rhyw fath o adroddad oedd wedi dod allan o'r tir cyffredin am menopos a'r gweithle. A weithio dwi'n meddwl fy hun, ydy hwn i wneud falle merched, neu ydy o'n wneud o'r ffaith bod ni angen cael ymlaen i fod yn cynhyrchu'n economaidd drwy'r amser? So, beth yw'r buddiannau sydd yn chwarae rôl yn y drafodaeth yma hefyd? So, dwi'n meddwl dim bach am yna hefyd, a hefyd o fater bach wahanol bwnc. O ran y syniad yma o merched yn cael rhyw fath o amodau arbennig yn y gweithle, oherwydd bod nhw'n mynd drwy'r menopos, ydy hyn wedyn mynd i, dwi'n ddim yn siŵr os dwi eisiau bod yn y categori yna o rwy'n sydd angen cyfanrhin yn wahanol yn y gweithle os dwi'n cael amser oce efo'r menopos. A mae'n beryg hefyd drwy, y math o sylw sy'n digwydd ar hyn o bryd, bod ni yn anghofio'r ffaith bod yn rhywbeth mae rhan fwyaf o ferched yn gallu ymdopi efo, heb falle gefnogaeth ychwanegol neu ymyrraeth meddygol. A mae'n creu'r darlun yma falle bod ni'n dod braidd yn incompetent yn y gweithle, ar y pwynt ble mae rhai ohono ni eisiau fel mynd amdano'n broffesiynol. Plan sy'n gael yn cartre, rwan dy'r cyfle fi'n ymddyrchafiol, ond dwi wedi cyfarhoi yn y categori yma rwan o ferch sydd angen bach o ofal achos bod fi'n mynd drwy rhywbeth o'r enw ddim menopos. So dwi'n gwybod sy'n wastad yn helpu bawb.
Na. Ac un o'r pethau ni'n treol wneud yn Llywodraeth Cymru yw sicrhau bod ni'n ymateb. Felly beth i ni wedi wneud yw cael task and finish group sydd nawr wedi adrodd, ni wedi gofyn i arbenigwyr yn y maes i edrych ar beth yw'r best practice yn y maes yma, wneud yn siŵr ein bod ni yn ymateb ar sail evidence a wneud yn siŵr wedyn bod na help ar gael ac arbenigedd ar gael. A dyna un o'r pethau maen nhw'n gofyn am yw y grŵp arbenigol yma, yw bod na help ar enghraifft ym mhob clwstwr, felly allwn wneud am mhob GP practice, ond falle allwn ni feddwl tyma bach yn fwy eang fel bod na arbenigydd yn rhanbarthol ble allwch chi anfon pobl pryd maen nhw'n cael amser caled. Felly mae hwnna yn rhywbeth i ni a diddordeb mewn. A just pwynt arall wedyn yw i osod hwn mewn cyd-destun ehangach. Felly, beth sy'n bwysig i fi yw bod ni'n dechrau ystyried iechyd menywod yn fwy holistig, bod ni'n edrych ar iechyd trwy lens menywod, ond mae'n ddiddorol i wybod, enghraifft, dwi'n gwybod Gemma yma yn y gynulleidfa heddi, oedd hi'n un o'r bobl yn cynrychioli pobl sy'n problemau calon. Nawr, oedd yn plem dy fi, tan bod Gemma wedi gweud wrthai, bod y ffordd i ni'n ymateb i problemau calon menywod yn hollol wahanol i'r ffordd i ni'n ymateb i problemau calon mewn dynion. A mae rhan o hwn yn wneud â diffyg research a hefyd, os ydych chi'n edrych ar faint o fenywod sydd yn consultants calon, mae rhan fwyaf ohonyn nhw'n ddynion. Felly, mae angen i ni edrych ar pob math o bethau trwy lens gwahanol. Felly, dwi'n yn keen iawn i beidio a neud yn siŵr bod ni ddim jyst yn edrych ar pethau sy'n wneud â gynecoleg ond i ni'n edrych yn ehangach ac i ni'n ystyried enghraifft autism a menywod. Sut i'n ymateb? Ni'n gwybod bod menywod yn tueddu cuddio autism mewn ffordd gwahanol i fechgyn a dynion. Felly mae rhaid i ni, dwi'n meddwl, ystyried hyn, a dyna pam beth i ni wedi gwneud nawr yw cael quality statement ar menywod, a nawr i ni wedi gofyn i'r NHS i dod â'n rhaglen o ran beth i ni'n mynd i weld yn wahanol yn y 10 mlynedd nesaf o ran edrych ar iechyd menywod yma yn Nghymru. Dwi'n gwybod os yna unrhyw ymateb i hwnna a wedyn yn ei ofyn i'r gynulleidfa.
Falle jyst un peth, mae'n dod hefyd o rhywbeth sydd wedi codi o sgyrsiau gyda Sara, ond y ffordd da ni'n meddwl am arbenigaeth hefyd. Mae'r disgwrs menopos yn draddodiadol, oedd yn lwythio lyfrau ar y menopos cyn heddiw, pobl yn trafod y peth, ond rili, be oedd o testunau meddygol gan ddynion, felly dynion yn ysgrifennu am broblemau merched. A un beth dwi'n edmygu am waith Sara ydy, bod ti'n berson di-ymhongar iawn, a ti ddim yn gael ydy hyn yn arbenigydd, ond be ydy arbenigaeth? Arbenigaeth, mae'n rhywbeth da chi'n gallu dysgu o siarad gyda merched dros amser. Mae'n wybodaeth pwysig yma yn does. A dwi'n gwybod bod ti'n berson sy'n aml yn gweithio am ddim, oherwydd bod ti'n mor angerddol am y gwaith ti'n neud. o wedi fedru fel am bobl sy'n swyddogol yn arbenigwyr, a fel mae yna bach o wrthdar a diddordeb weithio yn y senario yna, a mae yna lot o fyddiannau ariannol tu ôl llawer o bobl sydd efo llais pwerus o fewn y disgwrs hefyd. Felly pan ni'n meddwl am arbenigaeth, mae'n bwysig iawn meddwl, wel be da ni'n cyfri fel arbenigaeth, pwy sy'n siarad a be di'r dynamics pŵer fan hyn hefyd.
Just un gan ola. Sarah.
Well, we've discussed this, haven't we? And I think, you know, one of the things from the Inclusion Collective, we responded to the call for evidence to the menopause APPG on this, and we requested regulation of the menopause expert. So I'm a specialist in hosting conversations, in diversity and inclusion training. I'm not a menopause expert, and I would not declare myself to be so, and the only people who should be medically trained and understand the whole context. So we do have this emergence, like an industry of, an unregulated industry of menopause coaches that are able to share their own opinion about how you should experience menopause and the approach that you should use. And I feel this is really, you know, where else would we see this? It's like women making money from women, and it needs to be addressed. I'm not going to say it's dangerous, but it's part of the public health conversation, isn't it? That we need to, you know, get in there with good evidence and education for people so that we can kind of mitigate the risks of this unregulated emerging sector. That's my, I mean, I can say more, but...
Diolch yn fawr. Dwi'n mynd i agor cwestiynau lan i'r gynulleidfa nawr. Dwi'n mynd gwybod os oes unrhyw gwestiynau gyda ni. Maria, falle byddwch chi'n licio gweud beth yw'ch swydd chi hefyd, os chi'n mynd meindio?
Thank you very much. Really, really interesting.
Aros, 1 minute, just if you could wait just 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really, really interesting and music to my ears. And my friends and I were chatting about what this is going to be like before, and I think we're both going to think this was much better than we expected. Because we were afraid of this over-medicalisation. So I'm a consultant in the NHS and working perinatal mental health. And so I am very used to taking in the holistic, you know, I work with women who are either pregnant or have in the postnatal period, so obviously their hormones, their physical biology is absolutely integral to what we're doing, how we're trying to help them at the time, so we would never ignore that. And I take your point that women who present mental health services at a certain age, we have often overlooked the menopausal element that could, when I've worked in adult services before, that's for sure. But the point I really wanted to, I was keen to put my hand up for, was when you were talking about who benefits from this or who's driving this, and we cannot ignore the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, absolutely.
And please let us never forget that there is an awful lot of money to be made in everybody taking hormone replacement therapy, whether they need it or not, or whether they want, you know. So let's keep real about that and follow the money, as they say.
Can
I add one thing?
Yeah.
Sorry, just because I actually, you know, I did this research this morning on my breakfast. To put a figure on the amount you just said, I was reading that the menopause industry is worth £14.7 billion across the world, and it's growing at a rate of 5.7% annual growth. So yeah, we can't not talk about the money, can we?
And well, I think you'd be, you know, pleased that in the community group that we're running, we cover several topics, including preparing for an appointment, finding reliable information, using evidence information, and I recommend only like menopause-related organisations, signposting people there. Where there's a book, there's bias, unless it's written by a medical expert or me. But you know, I think that's part of what most of what people are saying in the kind of when they're registering for this course and so on, is that they are confused by what to believe, who to believe. And I think it's really important, even with a British Menopause Society registered specialist or consultant, that there's no bias. And I have seen bias already in Wales, so it concerns me.
Diolch yn fawr. Unrhyw gwestiwn arall? Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk. I think it's so important that we are talking about this now, finally. Well done for the guys in the room who have stayed. I've noticed a lot of men left. And I guess my question is how we frame this. as a societal issue rather than a women's issue?
Diolch yn fawr. I think that's a very valid point.
Yeah, so I have to say that having trained thousands of people probably, and my experience is this is about people, not a gender or sex issue when it comes to how people respond. It's about the person. I've trained like 40 male cops, and they were the most engaged group I've ever trained. They wanted to know what to do. They wanted to know, you know, they're dealing with lone workers, women sat in cars all day with heavy bleeding. They had all of these conversations really at the front. I've heard about as many obstructive female line managers, you know, probably more than I have men. So I think we need to be careful that men aren't engaged, and you know that it will be an uncomfortable subject for some, but equally it's an uncomfortable subject for some women too. So I think it's about the person, and when we apply an approach that is kind of open and inclusive, and everyone has the skills or the confidence to talk about it, then maybe, you know, we can all, those people who are a bit more difficult to bring on board, whether they're men or women, will come into the conversation as well. We've got some fabulous champions. We've got Darren Spray in Unison, who's done amazing work in championing menopause. I've seen senior men in Companies House get up and stand up and talk about their experience. Yeah, so there are some who won't be engaged and won't like to talk about symptoms, but you know, we shouldn't generalise too much, I think.
Diolch yn fawr. I think we've got one last question, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. And thank you for all that's been shared this morning. I was very moved by the reference to the holistic approach, because I wanted to throw sort of another perspective into it, in that I was quite fortunate. I was living overseas at the time with a very different medical health system where the patient could drive it more, and I discovered in my late 40s that I had an underactive thyroid, and it runs in the family, and I was able to get tested very early on, and the treatment for that is very cheap, very easy, and it actually dealt with nearly all the symptoms that I was having, and I actually had a pretty easy time. But I know in this country there are huge rates of undiagnosed underactive thyroid in women in their 40s and 50s when it begins, and a lot of the symptoms are very similar, even if just slightly differently focused. And I would really like to see that much more on people's radar screens, because if it helped me, I assume it can help an awful lot of others.
Diolch yn fawr. Oh look, we've got lots of questions now. I'm going to take 2 more questions, and I think we're just running over. Is it okay? Yeah.
We've got 10 more minutes.
We've got 10 more minutes?
For questions.
Oh, fun. I will, I'll bring it.
But this is nothing new. I can remember going to a zoo in St David's 25 years ago, and it was organised by the local doctor, and it was showing films of ladies with osteoporosis, and they were trying to flog HRT.
Yeah.
And things haven't changed at all. You know, we're still going through the same process.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, all 3 of you. It's been absolutely fantastic to hear you put into words the holistic approach that you're going to do. But money has been mentioned several times. How will this be funded so that people do get the care that they need?
Oh, that's for you.
People are going to avoid Big Pharma joining in.
Yeah, thank you. One last question there, and then we'll come back to the...
Diolch Llywodraeth diolch i heddiw. Nes i ffeindio popeth chi wedi gweud yn ysbrydoledig iawn. Fel rhywun sydd yn edrych ymlaen at ein trwy menopause, a dwi'n gweud edrych ymlaen yn fwyadol. Beth yw'r un peth a hoffech chi weld yn newid mwyaf o ran y drafodaeth o gwmpas menopause, ffordd mae'r system iechyd yn gweithio, a gweld e'n gweithle ymhen dywedwch 20 mlynedd o'n amser i ddweud ymhedad i pan fyddwn ni'n mynd trwy menopause.
Reit, wel diolch yn fawr. So, well, lot o gwestiynau yna. So, ni'n gwybod So, na I jyst delio gyda'r peth arian gyntaf, cyn gofyn i. Wel, mae arian yn brin, falle bod chi wedi sylwi. A dyna un o'r resymau pam, beth dwi'n meddwl sy'n angen wneud yw i edrych ar ble ni'n gwario'r arian ar hyn o bryd. Felly, enghraifft, os chi'n edrych ar ble ni'n gwario arian ar ymchwil, a sut ni'n gwario arian ar ymchwil, dyn ni ddim yn wneud hynny trwy lens menywod. Felly, dwi'n meddwl bod angen o reidrwydd mwy o arian, ond mae eisiau chi wneud e trwy lens gwahanol a wneud yn siŵr pan ych chi'n wneud ymchwil, eich bod chi'n cymryd ystyried o'r ffaith bod angen lens sy'n chydig wahanol. Ond mae arian wastad yn mynd i fod yn bryn, ond dyna un o'r resymau pam dwi'n meddwl mynd lawr y trywydd yma o weld arbenigedd, ond falle ar lefel rhanbarthol yn hytrach na lefel rili lleol. A dwi'n meddwl bydda hwnna, os mae pobl yn fodlon symud i gael yr help arbenigol yna, dwi'n meddwl bydda hwnna'n help. A lot o bwyntiau fyna. Nysgwch chi'n pigo lan o rhai o'r hynny?
So, yes, absolutely. And Sarah, you mentioned symptoms and thyroid, but it's a pertinent issue, and to remind people that just because we've got a rising discourse about menopause, we don't want to create like complacency about symptoms, signs and symptoms either. You know, on the back of this symptom list, I've also got symptoms of ovarian cancer, bloated tummy, feeling full, tummy pain, needing to wee more. And, you know, we mustn't encourage this kind of, oh, it's the menopause. We must have, like, no panic, but just for people to be any new or worsening symptoms to seek help for. And then the younger person responding, we haven't mentioned the difference in age, and I think that's really important. I did a session at my daughter's workplace earlier, which went down really well, lots of younger people. And what we must be mindful of is what we're talking about now. Generally, the conversation is being pushed by 50-year-old women, you know, our age group. And actually, we need to make sure that all the services, support services, resources are relatable to people coming afterwards. And that includes people experiencing menopause at a younger age, under 45, under 40, and people with premature ovarian insufficiency as well need support. So it has to be relatable. And then for the workplace, somebody mentioned that, and setting, you mentioned workplaces as well. So, that's my kind of interest in making sure that workplace education is inclusive, because it's not always. There's a huge focus on the experiences of senior women, but actually people work in all roles experiencing menopause. People with, with protected characteristics or from other groups may have more difficulty reaching out for help in the workplace, and there may be need for equitable, access to support at work. That, there are simple ways to address these. But I'm on a committee with the British Standards Institute looking at a standard for menstruation to menopause support at work. That's coming out later this year, it's being launched in the summer. But they're going to actually do something quite unusual and provide that for free. So anyone who knows BSI, you usually have to pay for the guidance, but that's going to be free. And that sets a really good standard that people can use. And other than that, have a look at TUC Cymru, Unison Wales. They've got some really great toolkits for people looking for workplace support.
Great. And then the other thing I think is probably worth mentioning is that Hywel is actually quite good in this space. One of the leading lights in terms of menopause in Wales is based in Tenby. And one of the things that we're really keen to do is to make sure that every contact counts whenever anybody makes contact with the NHS. We use that as an opportunity to talk about various different things. So, for example, when women are going for their cervical smears, that they always, in Hywel, should be now getting a leaflet on the menopause. So you're using that opportunity when they're coming in for something else to tell them about all of these other things that are going on. Fyddech chi'n fodlon
there's a lot to say. Thank you so much for all the comments, but also I just want to say that like every man in the room, you have my absolute automatic respect just for being here. Like, that's fantastic. Like, you think this issue relates to you as well. Totally agree with the point about that it's a society-wide issue, not just women. In terms of maybe one thing I would like to see changed, I think more discussion of the menopause earlier, like in school, as part of the new Welsh curriculum, for example. I think that is happening. It is happening, so that's good. I'd like to see development to that, for people to, I'd like people to feel that they have faith in the service that we get from the National Health Service. So if that involves more training for GPs or specialised centres, I would really urge every woman, don't just go private and do things that helps you. Think about the next woman who may not have your purchasing power. So I think if we all try and access the services we need and campaign for that, then that becomes something that's possible for all women. So I think that's important as well. So I think those are my main points. But yeah, I appreciate all the comments and questions.
Well, Gai diolch yn fawr i'n siaradwyr ni. Thank you so much to our speakers. If we've done nothing else today, we've hooked these two up. So we know that they're going to be friends for life, and I hope that I'll be able to bounce off you and use your expertise as well in my job. So diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch.
Am yr adeg.